sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Welcome to No BS Sales School podcast. It's your host, Walker McKay. I'm super excited today to have an old client and dear friend, Michael Branning. Michael's going to talk to us today about how to use and understand leverage in your business. Michael is the former CEO of Avtech. He sold the company to Motorola earlier this year, maybe last year. Since he has, quote, retired, he's busier than ever. He's got 3 kind of hobbies. One, he's an avid car collector. He's on the board of directors of 2 international car clubs. One is Porsche 356 Registry, and the other is the Gull Wing Group. He also spends a bunch of time on his farm and is an angel investor. So, Michael Branning, so glad to have you on the show. Welcome to the WS Sales Podcast.
Thanks, Walker. It's great to be here.
Sure. Do you mind taking 2 minutes and kind of tell us how you got to where you are today? Tell me the story.
Well, it's a lot of years to compress in 2 minutes, but I'll try. So, grew up in a small town, Batesburg, South Carolina. And when I was in high school, my dad started a one-man consulting engineering business in the basement of our house, kind of out of necessity. And I worked part-time for him all the way through high school and college as he sort of transformed it from a consulting business to a light manufacturer of customized electronic communications products.
What was he consulting on, Michael? What was the genesis?
Mostly it was railroad communications, radio communications for operating railroads.
Okay.
So he, after a few years, one of the railroads required a dispatch console system. It's a system that is sort of like a telephone system that's used in a command center, but it allows dispatchers to talk over radio and telephony to operate the railroad, talk to the trains, talk to customer service, manage mechanical problems and so forth. Very, very mission critical. These systems don't work, the railroads stop.
Right.
So for about 10 years, the business just made those systems for various railroads. And I worked through college. And then after I graduated with an electrical engineering degree from Clemson, didn't find a job. So I kind of grudgingly went to work for my dad. We had, I don't know, 20, 25 people. The company grew over the next few years to 30, 35. And I did hardware and software design. Then I managed a small team, helped develop a second generation product that was all digital. And then my dad wanted to retire, and he said, "Hey, would you like to run the company?" And I'm like, I don't know, how much does it pay? I really didn't know what I was getting into.
But one of those naive questions that a software engineer might ask. Yeah,
but it was about 50% more than I was making, so it sounded very good. So little
did I
know.
On that headache.
So I dove in, and I was an excellent micromanager. We managed to, we were profitable. We made money. We grew. But realistically, I didn't understand strategy and a lot of the business things. And about shortly after September 11th, all our airline business dried up.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a big problem. And we were having technology challenges, but we got a big military contract, which we made a lot of money on. And but then the wheels kind of came off of sales after that contract was done.
Okay.
So that's about the time just before that I saw the storm clouds gathering, and I realized we had culture problems, we had sales problems. I started working with
Ugh.
you at your old company, and
Yep.
with your help, within a year we were losing money.
It's pretty funny, right? It's the
Yeah.
J curve. As soon as you start to break things, they go. As soon as you start to begin to fix things, it gets worse before it gets better. You are living proof of that.
Well, we were working on improving things, but and it was great stuff, but there was a lot of really it was a problem with product. So for 3 years we lost money. I had to downsize the company. I mean, I screwed up. I
Ugh.
mean, a lot of people lost their jobs. It was the worst time of my life, and we just barely got the new product launched before we ran out of money. And the good news was it was a voice over IP product. It was distributed. We made a lot of shifts, hardware to software, direct sales to a blend of direct and indirect sales, some through dealers, and mostly hardware with a little bit of software to software with a little bit of hardware. So all that transition happened in a short time, and it was, we were learning it as we went along. And so the good news was we had a lot of great people, had a lot of great coaching. I joined Vistage in this time frame,
Yep.
gave me my whole business education, and the product really took off. And our sales were peaky, but on average over 10 years. Uh, we grew about 22% in revenue 10 years in a
Wow.
row.
That's pretty damn
And
good.
we ended
So
up
tell me
about a,
something. When you were going through the hard time and sales went down and you had to let people go and you're going through all this transition, what kept you from just saying, to hell with it and throwing in the towel? What was it that was driving you?
well, I don't know. I'm somewhat tenacious. I knew that we solved the problem. I had a belief. I mean, in a way, I was also kind of lashed to the mast of the ship.
Yep.
I was going through a
Yep.
divorce in that
Ugh.
time,
Yep.
and I mean there were a lot of things going on, and I couldn't screw up. I mean I didn't own all the company. It was in trusts and stuff for some of my sisters, and
Yep.
they were all depending on me. So
Yep.
I just had to get up every morning and go to work, and it wasn't just like go to work and you go there for 8 hours. I mean, it's like you're up at 3 a.m.
Yep.
You're thinking about in the shower. You wake up, you go to sleep with it. It was a rough road, but
And that's the
it,
difference, I think, for a lot of people, right? Is that, and I look at it the same way. I don't have a choice. I can't quit. I've got to find a way to make whatever I'm doing work because there's no backstop here. I got people counting on me. So it sounds to me like
absolutely.
you got exactly, but at a much larger scale because you were taking care of many, many, many families, including your own.
Well,
Um,
the good news is wrapping up the story. We reached about 145 people, kind of hit a plateau, and I just didn't. I was tired. I just didn't feel like I had the skills to take the company make it any larger. We had a bunch of barriers that were tricky, and I decided it was just time to sell. And so I found a very good buyer in Motorola, and that process took about a year and a half.
mm,
And we in March of 2019 they bought the company, and it continues to do well. And I know a lot of people that were there have had good opportunities, and some have moved on. But
awesome. Any
anyway,
regrets about selling?
it was the right decision. I mean, it's always hard. I mean, I was really worried that people would be upset with me, and some no doubt were. But I've been just really pleased with how gracious and kind the people I used to work with have been to me. I encounter quite a number of them, and all positive.
That's
It's
really
really
great.
it makes me sleep at night.
That's any advice to business owners who are thinking about an exit?
Well, you probably should every day you didn't buy it. Every day you didn't sell it, you bought it. So you really need to be
Ah,
thinking about your exit. I really didn't plan well. It all worked out for me, but you need to do the best things you can. You need to create transferable value. You need to make yourself
mm,
decorative and non-functional and not necessary for the business to run. If you're in there making all the decisions, then I mean, and some people, very smaller businesses, you have to be working in the business, and
yep.
you can't just work on the business. But for the most part, if the more you can make it run without you, the more valuable it is. I mean,
Love
two
that.
times, three times.
Yeah, it's really great. Hey, tell me something. You gave me in our pre-interview, in our pre-podcast interview, you kind of gave me three big lessons that you had learned, and I wanted to throw them out there to you and have you tell me the story because they're that's really good. Number one was make sure you always understand your business leverage. Tell me that. Tell us that story. I know the WS sales team wants to hear this.
Well, we had been I was in training with your prior company, and we'd actually just kind of covered a certain area, and I had a lot of head trash, and but you sometimes you just have to be brave, and so we were in the negotiation for the biggest contract in our history, and it was sole source, and it was going quite well. I negotiated and actually made the mistake of negotiating with the business unit leader and not really realizing that procurement would come in for their pound
Ugh.
of flesh next. So I get a
Yep.
call, and it's yes procurement and a senior guy there, and he said, "Hey, the business leader was just in here. They're not happy. The board's not happy with your pricing. You have to do better." And she's got brochures from all your competition, and I think if you can't do better, we're gonna have to go out to bid. And so,
Ah.
what would most salespeople say at that point, Walker?
Oh Lord, they'd fold. They want to cut their price and just to make the deal to get it done. Yes, absolutely. And then they
Yeah,
probably still get the hell beat out of them anyway.
and I was tempted, but I remembered, I was given some backbone through the training, and I said, "Wow, I hadn't thought about that, but maybe that's a good idea."
Wait a minute. So they said they might have to go out to bid, and you said maybe that's a good idea. That's sure as hell not what they expected. What? How'd you happen to say that?
Well, I realized that it was a bit of a bluff. I took it to be a bluff, and we had a lot of leverage. We had some technology leverage, familiarity leverage. We were in the right position. So I said, "Look, you're probably not going to have any more problems with your network that's causing these outages before you get a new system. It might not add more than maybe 6 months to your procurement cycle."
Right.
And we got so much business. We're really busy, and in fact we're taking a lot of business from our competitors. So I'm they're kind of desperate, so I'm thinking that they're probably going to give you a really good price. So I
Wow.
from your seat, going out to bid might make sense. But
Wow.
can I ask you a question?
Hmm.
He said, "Sure." I said it really gently. I said, "Does it really need to work?"
Does it really need to work? And I bet he shook in his boots, didn't he?
Well, we were the standard in that industry. We knew their needs, and it, I felt like our product was by far the best, and they couldn't take the risk of
Yeah.
going with somebody else. So he after about 10 seconds, he was, "Of course it's got to work," and he was emotional, and we wrapped up the call, and the next time I had a call from procurement, it was his boss who came at me from another angle, and we came up with some creative ways for them to have a small win because
Right.
procurement has to get their ounce of flesh, but
Isn't it
they're
interesting though to find out I mean, your ultimate leverage is your willingness to walk away,
yes.
and that, or excuse me, your prospect or your opposing person's belief that you're willing to walk away. I also think what I love is what you did was absolutely no BS because you said, "Hey, maybe you should," because maybe they should explore that, right?
Hmm.
And maybe not to be best thing for you, but that was maybe they should explore that. And so what you did was you took off the table that you were begging for the business. You showed your leverage and showed that you had the willingness to walk away and also to shoot straight with them. Maybe
Hmm.
you should. Maybe there's something better out there. For 6 months, it probably won't matter if it takes that much longer. And that's just being straight up as opposed to jumping into sales mode, which is when we, the salespeople, get emotional and then we try and beg for the damn business and it crushes us every time.
Yeah.
Love what you did. What else?
Well, we were talking about, I mentioned to you before, I had a really great mentor on negotiation. And he said there are three lies of procurement,
Hmm.
and it really applies here. And those are your product or service is a commodity. The only issue is price, and I am the decision maker.
Damn
And all of those,
lies. They said they use every single one of them.
all three of those were really at play there in that
Mhm.
in that conversation.
So because I'm imagining that a lot of the people listening to this thing have to deal with purchasing and or some perhaps shrewd negotiator. How do we fight the thing that we're a number one, that you are a commodity? How do we work with that?
Well,
How should
that's
we work with that? How about that?
well, that's that. There's a lot. There's a lot around that. I mean, uh, people want to go back and give a lot of features and benefits.
Yep.
And
What's the problem with that?
what they really are concerned about is will you come through, and they have to feel like they got a fair deal.
Yep.
And you know there's nothing that's a commodity. I mean, even like corn and soybeans and stuff.
Yep.
If it's spoiled or you can't get it when you need it.
Yep. Doesn't matter.
There's always differentiators, but in our world, highly technical, a lot of expertise, and the stakes were, if an outage could stop all the trains of a major railroad, and the
Right.
cost there could be $100,000 an hour. So even in a multi-million-dollar contract, it doesn't
Boy,
take long.
yeah, to really get soaked on that.
Yeah. So
I talk about the ultimate commodity in my mind is water, whereas you can get it from the sky for free. You can get it from your tap for almost free. But if you go to a convenience store, you might pay $1.50, $1.75 for a bottle of water. If you're at a football game or some sporting, remember we used to be able to go to those things?
Yeah.
You go to a sporting event, you might pay $4 or $5. And if you needed water to get chemicals out of your eyes, you'd pay whatever the hell it took. And
Yes.
so that, to me, everybody says, oh, either your business is a commodity or my business is a commodity, whatever. That just means they're being intellectually lazy to me. I think there's always differentiators. It's up to us to find them.
Well, it's a lot of procurement because their job is primarily just get a better price.
Right. So, how do you get around the price thing?
Well,
How do you deal with that in your head? I mean, when because you have a lot of head trash, just like I do. But how do you get around that? It's all about price in your head.
Well, I just had to learn that it's never about price; it's about value. Somebody
Right.
hammered that in my head,
Yep.
and they must not. If it's somebody whose job is procurement, it's going to be just about price because what they care about is making sure you come through. Do
Yep.
they get a fair deal? And they need to get something so their metrics, the way they get measured, they don't lose their job. It's always their personal pain, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
their pain is that they don't get a nugget. Their performance review is going to be poor, and
Right.
maybe they can't buy that boat because they didn't get a raise.
Yeah. Or don't get invited back. Get fired
Yeah.
if their loss record is too high. Tell me something about. Go ahead. You're gonna say something.
Oh, I was going to say another thing I learned was really about sometimes customers, ask for something, and you need to you as a professional you need to be a guide to them. I think you've mentioned that
Yes.
to me, and you need to offer them what they need, not necessarily what they ask for.
Tell me more about that. Dig in. I believe you 100. I agree with you 100%. Tell me your experience with that.
Well, I'll tell you this story. We were in the turnaround situation. This new product I mentioned that did so well. We were behind other competitors in getting a voice over IP product done, and a lot of companies wanted that technology because it really reduced their costs. IT departments were taking over telephony, so we bid on a California utilities communication system with the new product. They surprised us with an RFP. They were already a customer of ours, and they had our legacy product, the one I designed, which was rock solid. I mean, it was like a tank, but it was also looked like a row of refrigerator cabinets. I mean, full of circuit cards and telephony based and not that sexy. And so
Yep.
they went out for bid for an IP based system, and we bid on it and we lost, and we could find, and they were completely closed off, wouldn't tell us a thing. So
Wow.
what they bought or anything. So about maybe close to 2 years later, we get a call from a consultant who's working for the power company. He's been brought in to fix this problem. And the problem is this thing they bought is not going to work. And in like 45 days, they have a command center has to go live. So they're calling us to, they want to buy our stuff now because, hey, our old stuff works. Our new stuff must work. We're the lowest risk.
They bought somebody else and they bought the wrong damn thing, right? So now they're
Right.
calling you back and saying, "Holy shit, we've got a problem. We need to be fixed here."
Yeah, and they had spent $2 million on these interface boxes to connect their radios to an IP network, and they wanted us, instead of buying our box, they wanted us to connect to those boxes. and they were made by the company that was being booted out, which
Yep.
I'm sure they'd be very happy to help us with that. And it's
Yeah.
45 days. It's drop everything. We don't know anything about all the players. We don't know anything about the networks. And our product really was not that mature. It was just barely uh, being shipped. In fact, it wasn't. I don't even think it was quite ready yet. Anyway, long story short, the salespeople, it's a large project, about $1 million project, and salespeople are very motivated to want to close this deal.
Yep.
So we talked about it, and I finally said, look, 45 days, the only thing we can offer them is another copy of the legacy system. That's the only safe thing that we can give them that will work, because their problem is they're going live, they've got to run that command center, and there are so many ways we could this could not work if we try to use the new technology. Plus, we can't use that. We don't know anything about those radio boxes. So anyway, we have a call scheduled with this consultant. He calls us up, and I have a speakerphone. We're sitting around a table, several salespeople, and he says, "Well, wanted to hear the good news," something along those lines.
Yep.
And I said, "Well, I'm sorry to say, but the only thing we can offer you is the legacy system, and we can't interface those boxes." And he paused, and then he got angry, and he actually was yelling. He wasn't cursing, but he
Wow.
was he was upset, clearly
Yeah.
quite triggered. Saying things like, I tried to give you guys the business and yada yada yada. And
Oh,
it was really, and I held my finger up to my lips, and looked around the
tell
room.
me, just shut up, right?
Yeah, and we didn't react, and we waited, and after when he stopped, I just sighed real loudly, and I said, "Bob, we seem to have disappointed you." And then we shut up again and held my fingers up my lip, and after, I don't know, 10 15 seconds, he calmed down and started talking again, and he said, "You guys are being straight with me." I don't
Yep.
remember the exact words.
Yeah.
And and in the end, we got the order for the legacy system. We manufactured it, we shipped it out there, we installed it. It went one of the best, smoothest installs for a project of that size ever. We got compliments on it. They got cut over. They ran their business, and then some years later, they went out to buy another system, and our salesperson worked with them, and they bought the new product, which was now improved and ready. And we had time to do it right and manage the implementation, and they bought it sole source. And so they actually bought, we got twice the business we would have gotten if we had tried to do the new system. And they ran smoothly and uninterrupted. And because ultimately the disruption of their business was much more important to avoid than saving a little bit of money on a system.
So how did you have the again, this goes, well, I see two things here. One is you did not let your emotions get in the way, right? And
Yeah.
that you at least if you were emotional, you didn't show it to him. How do you do that?
Well, it was just so clear that the only path forward was what we were offering them. So there was no other way to go. And and in terms of managing the emotions, I just, some coaching and role playing and good training, and
Of course, also
get
you're a damn engineer too. So y'all typically don't have a whole lot of emotions, right?
oh, we're actually much more emotional than we let on. It's just usually uh not sure how to describe it.
You just don't
Different.
show it. You're very emotional. You just don't show it. It's more on the inside.
Yeah, we cry on the inside.
Tell me something. I know one of your passions is cars. How did you get interested in cars?
I don't know. I just I really like cars growing up. My dad had a '66 Mustang that my grandfather bought new, and so got to drive around, and that was a somewhat sporty car. But it
Yeah.
wasn't like a Shelby or a,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
or anything like that. But I think it represented freedom. I lived in Batesburg, South Carolina, a small town. So
Yep.
being able to, I rode my bike all over that town.
Yep.
Miles and miles and miles. And so I wanted a motorcycle, and that wasn't going to happen because my dad had a bad
Ooh.
motorcycle accident when he was in college and was in a coma for 3 days. So there was
Oh,
no chance of a motorcycle. So the car represented freedom, and uh, In fact, we moved to Missouri for a year when I was 15. And so in South Carolina, you could drive at 15. In Missouri, it was 16. So I was trying to get my license before we left. And I flunked my
Ah,
driver's test
damn
twice
it.
and
Ah,
then moved to Missouri.
that was your
So,
punishment. So what's the
yeah.
first car you ever bought with your own money?
First car I ever bought with my own money. I guess that was I bought the Mustang from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
He bought me a VW Rabbit as a deal if I made good enough grades my first year of college. So he bought me a used Rabbit, and then like every kid, that I had my accident
Mm.
and damaged it, and I got $700 out of that car. And so
Insurance.
he offered to sell me the Mustang for 700. So I guess that was my own money,
Yeah,
although I guess it came from him originally. So
that's all right.
I fixed it up, and I was counting the other day. I think I've owned about 50 cars in my
Wow.
life. Just I tend to get new cars fairly often. Just
So
it's
what are the themes of the cars you've bought? I mean, it seems like you're relatively Porsche centric and you're Mercedes centric. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
correct?
I'm a German car guy, and Porsche
Okay.
specifically. I raced a Porsche 944 in the club racing series for like 14 years, which was a lot of fun. Learned a lot of driving skills. Did a lot of coaching. I was an instructor for their driver's ed
Huh.
program for a long time, so probably instructed at least 100 people on the track, sitting in the right street seat, holding on, and have all kinds of stories from that.
Wow.
Cars spinning at 90 miles an hour out into a field,
Holy
and
shit.
you're just hanging on for Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But I really like the Porsche 356 was the first classic car that I bought. I bought it when I was 28 years old. I took out a bank loan and bought a car in Miami and drove it home. Found out the heater didn't work about halfway home. It was like February, so
Didn't notice till you got into probably Georgia or South Carolina and all
yeah,
of a
yeah.
sudden,
I
damn,
think about
the heat.
Savannah,
Oh my God. So those things have like 60 horsepower, don't they? They're not very, they're
the
like a
base
Volkswagen
models.
Bug with a better looking body.
Well, the first cars really had all Volkswagen running gear with a souped up engine and a Porsche body. And then by the time my 1963 model was made, there was really no VW parts, but the architecture sort of was similar.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 60 horsepower in the base models, up to like 90 in the kind of the upper models. And of
Mm-hmm.
course they had esoteric racing derived models that were
Mm.
much more powerful, but just obscenely expensive and
Yeah.
complicated and unstreetable.
So tell me about the latest car you just bought, because this is one that excites me, and my boys and I are excited about it. Let me tell a funny story on Michael. He said we went up to his farm, he invited us to come hunting, and a couple weeks ago, and he said I've ordered a new Porsche, and I said, hey boys, Michael bought a Porsche, and Michael corrected me, being the engineer he is, says, no, I didn't buy one, I ordered one. In other words, I didn't go buy it off the street. I ordered this thing exactly what I wanted. Tell me what that car is.
Yeah, I bought it. Well, I'll back up for a second. I bought a Tesla 3 Performance right after I sold the company, and
Yep.
just scary fast. It really a lot of fun, and the acceleration was so good. I mean, 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds.
Good
When I
God.
went, I've never owned a newer 911, and I was going to buy a 911. I thought, oh crap, I've kind of it's like you need more and more and more drugs to get the effect. I thought, so I ordered a 2021 Turbo S. So it's 4-wheel drive, about 650 horsepower.
Holy shit.
It's quite fast. I mean, 0 to 60 is 2.5, something like that. So, although hard to use that on the street.
I was going to say, how fast when you're on the interstate? I mean, I know there are no policemen listening. How fast would you drive on the interstate?
Oh, 72, something like
Okay,
that. No,
right.
I don't go stupid fast. I mean, I've seen I've been in a couple crashes racing, and so the forces involved in a crash
Ugh.
are. I mean, yeah, I probably am in the I'm going above average speeds probably.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Right. Have you crashed? Have you been in a crash in a race?
Yeah, yeah. I was racing at Road Atlanta in the rain in an endurance race, and I came up on a slower car on the back straight, and they were on the left side of the track, and the road, it was bending just slightly, very slight curve, and I went to go to the inside, and they moved over at the last minute, and I
Oh,
breathed out the accelerator, and the car just lost traction. It spun, and I hit a concrete wall at about 100 miles an hour.
ouch.
And they took me. I had to go to medical. I got out of the car. I walked way, I went to medical, and they said, does anything hurt? And I said, yeah, I got this sharp stabbing pain right back here in my wallet. Yeah.
It's very funny. I
But
didn't see
but
that
we
coming.
but I had we took the car, and the body was too damaged, but bought another car for like $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
It was 500 VIN numbers away, same color, and
Mm-hmm.
converted it into sort of like the better, faster, stronger version,
Nice.
and transplanted the engine, transplanted a lot of the parts. And
Worked out
I had a
okay.
I was wearing a Hans device,
Yep.
the
The
carbon
head thing.
fiber
Yep.
collar,
Yep.
and I raced with it a number of years later. And then I went, a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, this thing's sitting in the closet. I should sell it. Throw it on eBay. Somebody will want it, but
Yeah.
it has a certification sticker. So it's expired. So I sent it in for certification. They called me back and said, hey, it's got a crack in it.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah, so that accident, it actually cracked the collar.
Which
So
probably saved your life, which is what it's there
well,
for, right?
mhm.
So, can I tell you a couple things I've learned from you today? Fascinating conversation, Michael. I love your passion about the cars, and also your passion about your technology, and about sales, quite frankly. I love what you said. I haven't heard it put this way, but if you're looking, you ought to be looking for ways, if you want to sell your company, to make yourself decorative and non-functional. I love that, because you're right. That's the way to make the company more value. Because if you're in there all the time doing stuff, and you're a vital part of the company running, it certainly lowers the value of what the company would be.
Yeah, and the issue here is pretty simple: is somebody's going to come along, and you'd like them to give you a lot of money for your company. So as soon as they give you a lot of money, they're going, well, they've lost all their leverage, and now you have fu money,
Right.
and you may be less cooperative. You may not.
Got
You
it.
may be checked out. They don't know. So the safest thing for them is to have great younger, developable leaders in your business that are actually running the thing, that are hungry, that want to make more money, and they can incentivize those people, give them a great plan, and maybe give them a piece of the action or some kind
Yep.
of bonus program, and then let them and turn them loose. Because so often entrepreneurs, we don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
Maybe we have a weird relationship with money,
Yep.
and we're under investing, and the buyer, I mean, could be a private equity company that wants this thing to grow like crazy,
Yep.
and so they're gonna do different things
Yep.
to unleash the value. They want to pay you X, and they want this thing to be worth 2X in 2 years.
Pretty
So
quickly. Right. So they can look like heroes.
so
Hey,
you're
tell
just
me,
going to be in the
Michael,
way.
how would somebody find you? If someone wanted to talk to you about cars or business or whatever else, how would somebody reach you?
I say probably the best thing would be just look me up on LinkedIn, Michael Branning, Branning. Search for Avtech. You'll find me. Shoot me a note. We'll connect. And
That's great. Hey, No BS Sales Team, when it's a great episode today. Michael sharing a lot of the wisdom that he's learned. He's a great guy and been a good friend. And I want you guys to, if you have not already, I want you to subscribe to this podcast. I want you to share it. I want you to like it. And if you have not yet rated the podcast, please do give it a rating. That helps people find us. Y'all been really great about that. Also, if you have any comments or questions you want to email me, I'll be happy to do my best to answer. I've got a newsletter that you can subscribe to. If you go to walkermckay.com/newsletter, we'll take you there. That goes out twice a week. It's different sales ideas, business ideas. It's a video. It's a link to the podcast, a bunch of other information that's proprietary. So if you want to join the newsletter, I'd love to have you there. Michael, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This has been super fun, and I know people learned a hell of a lot today. So thank you very much.
oh, you're welcome. It was fun.